I am so thrilled to be able to introduce you today to a dear, dear friend. I'm Pam Scott. I'm the founder of MentorLoft and the creator of Leaders Finish Strong. And we are putting together some videos to help our friends, not necessarily engineers, but we hang out with engineers a lot, to help them understand what they can do to be good CEOs and what they can do to help develop their talent. So this wonderful, beautiful lady is my friend Anna Ahmukler, and we'll giggle, right, Anna? We're
Yes.
allowed. Yes, we will giggle.
Yes.
Okay, because that's what we do. So anyhow, Anna, it's only fitting that Anna be my first person to do this video with, because Anna was my first coaching client a long time ago. So Anna is a PE. She's a professional engineer. She's had, how long have you had your PE? I don't know, decades?
Many years.
Many.
28, 29 years, something like that. 30?
Okay.
No, 29 years. Okay.
When Anna and I met, she was working with a firm, a small firm, and one day we were having lunch, and I just looked at her and I said, Anna, why don't you be the CEO? Just run the firm. Do you remember that day? We were at the
Yes, I do remember that day. I remember restaurant too.
Yeah, I do too. And her chin just about hit the table. And she said, what do you mean be the CEO? I said, you're brilliant. Why don't you run the company? And you did, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
And so
and you told to approach that properly too.
Yeah, we were refined ladies. So what do you remember from those early days?
What I remember and still tell everybody, just because you're a very good engineer doesn't mean that you all of a sudden become good CEO. It takes much more than just engineering. Also, you change your personality a little bit, because being the CEO requires different set of skills than just sitting in front of computer and designing something. So, and you, Pam, taught me a lot in the way how to talk to clients, how to talk to my partner. And eventually I bought him out and became all my person, thanks to you, because you guided me through the very difficult times of learning everything. So I don't know, I can talk about that a lot, because there are a lot of aspects in running, in being CEO. And to me, the important things were to tell the truth to your employees, to be open with them, listen to them, listen very careful, because even so we all think that we know everything. It's not exactly right. And when you listen to people, you don't really have to do everything they said, but with the knowledge, you can make a much better decision. And the huge thing which I was missing in my education, my background, was reading financial statements.
Oh.
You know, I never took any business classes, and it was very tough for me to realize that I actually need to go. And besides taking classes from Pam, I had to actually take classes from accountant to learn some managerial skills as far as financial area is concerned.
Yes, because neither of us was real strong on the financial side, or we weren't then. We are now. Now we can kick back.
Yeah. Oh, now I can absolutely read. I can help. I know, you know, people people who know me would come over, ask me for advice, and I can absolutely read it, figure out just looking at the financial statements. I can tell them where their company is going. But it took a lot of effort to learn that and be very humble about the fact that I don't know everything and I have to learn from the best.
When you think about how having those numbers and understanding those numbers, how important that was to you, can you give me an example of just a time when if you hadn't had the numbers, you might have gotten into trouble?
Well, I actually got in trouble when we just started because we were doing a lot of work for Georgia Department of Transportation, and they would come over and audit us. And the first audit they did, they discovered some discrepancies in our books, and I had no idea that that's what was happening. Because there are a few people, we are here, so we pay expenses, we pay salaries, we're doing pretty good, but there is way more to it than just cash exchanges.
Right.
So, and that's when I realized I need to go and learn it myself, because I can hire an accountant and bookkeeper, but I have myself to know what exactly is going on.
I love that you mentioned that, because in this 20 years practically of me dealing with engineers, it's such a math-minded group. A lot of people have gone into engineering because they like math. It's one thing, yeah, you can outsource the accounting, but it's your company. And so you've got to, you can't just outsource your company. You have to really understand what's going on. And I remember some of those. I remember some of those days of going, well, I don't know. Let's look at these numbers and see what we've got here. When you think about all the people that you have run across in your long career, what are a couple of the characteristics that stand out for you as being an indicator of leadership? That when you meet someone, you see something and they go, okay, this is a leader. This is a person that I can really relate to.
The first thing that jumps in my head is their ability to listen.
Ah, awesome.
Because the first thing you see, if you start talking to somebody and they just interrupt you and just tell you what they think and how it needs to be done and full of advice, those people not gonna work out well.
Well, and that's one of my soapbox issues, is that people need to listen more and ask questions. What's one of the strongest things you think you brought to the company as CEO?
I do listen to what people say, and I respect people who worked for me. I really respected until if I would catch somebody intentionally not doing the best they can and making mistakes intentionally, not by mistake. I mean, sometimes we all have ways to learn, but if somebody intentionally does it, that was the last of those people. I did have some employees I had to let go because I just couldn't trust them anymore. I believe I was always honest with the people who worked for me, telling them what's going on. And where you came in is how to tell them the truth, because you can tell it very differently to them.
I remember Gennady, your husband Gennady, saying to me one day when we were sitting at the conference table and you'd stepped out for some reason, but you just fired someone for good reason. And Gennady just turned to me. He said, I never for the life of me thought I would see my wife fire anybody. I don't know how you did it. And it just stuck with me. I mean, that's been years since we had that conversation, but you as a leader had issues, and not you, the company.
To change. because my natural intention is to like everybody, to be friends with everybody, to be nice with everybody. But when you become a leader and when you become CEO of a company, you can't do that anymore. You don't live to please people. You live to run the company and make it profitable. So it's not easy, but it's very possible to train yourself to become the person you need to be to run the company.
I love that observation. I really do. Because there's a book, when I'm sure we looked at it, called The 5 Temptations of a CEO.
Yes.
And one of those, one of those temptations is wanting to be liked by everyone. And being liked by everyone is not part of a CEO's job description.
Absolutely.
And you are such a fair-minded, you want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And that was something that you had to learn to overcome, or at least in your CEO role, to be able to do that. How long do you think it took you to get comfortable with being the CEO when you moved into that role?
I don't know if I ever got completely comfortable. I kept, I constantly felt that I can do better and better.
Okay.
But I guess I was more in the right place, like a few years after I started it, when I became better at talking to people. I'm an engineer, so I'm a complete introvert.
Yes, you are.
I would rather sit in front of a computer or at my desk and just don't talk to people. I hated phone calls. I mean, I still hate phone calls. So I had to break myself and become this person that, comes over and talks and smiles and laughs and, and being outgoing. So nobody ever believed this. I'm very shy.
I remember sitting across the desk from you and watching I would ask you a question, and then I would just watch your eyes move back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I could only, of course, wait maybe 2 minutes before opening my mouth to talk, because that's what I'm really good at. But I just remember looking at you and saying, wow, you're having a great conversation in your head. Do you mind sharing with me what you're thinking so I can be a part of it?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that's another part. So it took me a few years to become more comfortable with this part of me, like talking to people, expressing myself openly, not just in my head to myself. It took a couple of years. And I think I got pretty good at it. And I was way more comfortable in my new shoes. But there was always room for improvement. It just never times at you. Like, that's it. I achieved it. I am on the top of it. I don't have to learn anything new. There is no such thing.
That's called dead, right? When we get to the point where we don't have to learn anything new, we're dead.
Even in retirement, you learn something new.
So I remember going to the big transportation summit down at some conference center, and you were wearing a pink sweater. And for the listeners of this, they don't know that you're kind of short. And the people that were surrounding you were all tall men. And it was so easy for me to go, oh, there's Anna, because you're in a profession that is, at least it was at the time, and it is changing, but it was so heavily male. And there you were. There you were. You didn't look like them. You didn't sound like them. You certainly weren't as tall as them, but you wore that pink sweater. And nobody missed Anna, because I'd go up to one of the guys and said, have you seen Anna anywhere? And they said, oh yeah, she's in a pink sweater. She's over there. So that was it. I thought that was beautiful branding on your part to make sure you didn't get overlooked.
Yeah, because it was easy to get overlooked. You know, at the first, when I just started and I would go to the potential clients and I would come with a male, you know, who was helping with marketing at the time. And they would talk and people would ask all those professional engineering questions, always looking at him. And he would say, I don't know that, ask Anna. So it took me some time to prove that I'm not a secretary. I'm actually know what I'm talking about. There were different times. Yeah, we can't forget that, because when I was at Georgia Tech, you know, in a class of 180, there were 12 women.
Wow.
In civil engineering. So, and then in the companies, there were very few women, but women CEO, it was absolutely, there were like 2 of us, I think. I'm not
Yeah,
going to
you
name
and
us.
you and the person who introduced us.
Yeah.
Which was a cute little story I'll throw in here, because I do think it was so funny that I asked this woman CEO who I knew, I said, who do you know that needs to know me? And she said, oh, you must know Anna Ahmukler. And I was, no, I haven't met Anna. So she made the intro, and you and I met at that restaurant up there, up the road a bit. And we sat down and started talking. And within 15 minutes, you said, I want to hire you to be my coach.
Yes, I felt extremely comfortable. You just hit the nail on the head with what you were saying, what I was struggling with at that moment. And one thing you didn't know, and I never told you, that on the way, when I came back to office after our meeting, I sat down at my desk, and all of a sudden I realized I had a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, because I know I have a way to move on. You know, I found the solution.
So when you think of the people who are out there who are, let's say, early 40s, late 30s, early 40s, and they want to get ahead, they want to make it into a leadership role, maybe they want to be the CEO, maybe they don't. Some people don't want to be the CEO, but they want to be maybe the COO, and you know, at that level in the C-suite. How can they make their bosses see that they are real leadership material? What do you think that they can do?
When I was in that position as a boss, I would really appreciate somebody young come over and tell me that I would like to move up and I would like to learn from you or from whoever you recommend how to move from engineering into management.
Okay.
You know, because moving through in engineering would be really not that, I mean, it's a challenge, but not that huge of a challenge. You basically like changing your profession. So
when you move from engineering to management.
Yeah. And it's maybe a good place to start, you know, but then again, I don't know what kind of managers those people have, because not all top management is open to competition.
Okay.
You know what, I've met some people who were really uncomfortable, not uncomfortable, but they were insecure. So they would kind of keep everybody under, you know, in line.
Okay.
So, and definitely, if you know what you're doing, you should be happy that you have somebody who wants to take your place eventually.
Who knows? But one of the things I've heard CEOs that I work with say a lot, it seems in the last year, of course, that could be pandemic related too, is they want to see more initiative on the part of the younger generation. They want somebody to to see something and say, hey, I've seen this, this is broken or whatever, I'll be happy to take care of it. Or however they can step up and show initiative. So is it kind of what you're talking about there?
Yes, exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
And if so happens that you go to your manager and you don't succeed, he or she doesn't take you seriously, maybe it's a sign that you need to look for another place, to move on.
Okay.
So doesn't mean you have to start your own company right away.
No, because that's a lot harder than people realize.
It's way harder because on the top of all these skills and knowledge, you also involve finances, and not everybody can afford, like sit without income for a little while when you start a brand new company.
And I think one of the weaknesses I've found among not just engineers, anybody who's younger and working in a company, is they don't understand how the business operates. So recently I wrote a column for the Engineering Management Institute, and part of the column was, you're in business to make money. Yes, you're in business to do engineering, but you're in business to make money. And if you don't make money, there is no business.
Exactly.
I wonder if we need to be emphasizing the need to develop business acumen, an understanding of the business and how it operates. If that needs to be a higher priority for.
I think so. I think so. It brings us back to what we were talking at the very beginning about financial statements and financial situation. Yes, definitely.
And, depending upon the size of the company, if it's a small firm, you're not going to have an HR person. But yet understanding what can you as a CEO ask an employee, and what can you not ask an employee, and a whole lot of other rules and regulations that come up in running a company. And I know I listen to them and go, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to do that. I'm going to be here to support people, but I don't have to know every single thing that they're working on.
I don't know if you remember how I was constantly struggling with, like every year with the health insurance program, you have to evaluate how much we pay. And I was the one who had to make a decision if we go in with another company or we stay in, and my employees depend on me. I mean, they have this health insurance, and they trust me with picking a good one and choosing one which is reasonable and provides good service. So it's on me. I have to make it. I mean, what am I, engineer who knows something, so obviously I have an agent and, all this stuff, but still. And then when it goes to retirement plans, you make all those decisions, and it has nothing to do with what exactly your company is producing or what service your company is providing. And it has to be very clear to people who decide that they want to go either on their own or run small company, that they will have to make this decision. It's just not everybody is kind of fit to do that, or not everybody like to do this kind of stuff.
Right, most definitely. So when you think about the strengths that you brought to the table, now you told me listening was one of them. What are maybe some of the other strengths that you brought to your role by virtue of being Anna? Not by being an engineer, but by virtue of being Anna.
I think I was always secure in my shoes, like in the place where I was.
Okay.
I was not afraid of criticism or somebody giving me suggestions. And it's not as easy as it seems,
How was your confidence? Did you have to build up your confidence over time, or did you go into it pretty confident?
Okay, I was pretty confident in my engineering
Right.
side. I had to build my confidence as far as CEO.
Okay.
You know, that wasn't because it's not something I learned. So I had to learn as I went,
Okay.
which is not really a good way to do it, you know, like.
Good point. It'd be certainly a lot easier if we gave these folks a little
Yeah.
schedule and armed them with
Yeah.
knowledge and information so they could move along more easily than trial and error.
Yeah, and I got proof of it. My son went, after he got his bachelor's degree, he went and got MBA. And he would tell me, you know, what they were learning. And I was like, I wish I would learn that before I started. So basically, he was learning a lot of things which I learned on the job. It's not, you have other people depending on you. You don't really have that much time to learn some things, you know, on the job. There are some things which would be so much better if you knew ahead of time. Going back to financial statements.
Right. What can you say about business development? What advice would you give these next gen people or the CEOs who are getting ready to retire? How can they equip their next gen people for you know, being good business developers?
It's a whole another subject which I can talk for hours, where it's very, that's where it becomes very important to listen, you know, and to basically raise your, to raise people to become your clients. You know, like you meet a lot of people, they potentially could be clients. If you just start talking engineering to them or exactly what you do, you know, it may not impress them that much. Just think what you like when people talk to you. You know, like
Great
if
advice.
somebody would come over and ask, talk to you and learn that, you know, you have a child in the 5th grade, you know, and they go into middle school, and then you meet them like a little bit later. And if you just say, ask them, so how is your child doing in the middle school? It impresses people and they will remember you. Even so, it had nothing to do with your profession. You know, this is just like one example, but you really have to listen and make little notes after, because you won't be able to remember everything about everybody. And definitely, if you're talking to big shots, remember names of their secretaries and be nice to them.
We don't call them secretaries.
Okay. Secretary.
Yeah, they're assistants.
Executive assistants. Okay.
That's better. Right. So it's more than just the person you're talking to, but I sort of equate it to that person's world, what's going on in their world. And I remember going on to an engineering retreat where we all did deep sea fishing, or in my case, just sort of held the pole. One of the engineers who was there with his family had this cute little guy. And every time I would run into that engineer later, and I think he was a director of regional operations or something. And I would ask him about his son, and, you know, it just kept getting, oh, well, he's bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, like over the course of 15 years, that was a way for me to start a conversation with that individual. It was just, hey, what's the update on your boy? How is he doing? And that's a hard skill for people, a lot of people to acquire.
Especially introverts like us. But if you just look at yourself, you would rather deal with people who you like as a person. So the same exactly goes for your clients and potential clients. If they like you as a person, there is a way higher chance that they will actually give you, you know, will be willing to work with you and give you projects to work on. So it's extremely important to keep your positive face up.
we do business with people we like, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And you know, people who hire us do it because they like us. Likability is a good trait, a good skill to have, or a good trait to have, but a skill to develop if you don't. Are there any things in particular that you would like to share with the folks who'll be watching this in terms of lessons for CEOs or lessons for the next gen people? Do this, don't do that kind of stuff?
Well, there are always ups and downs in everything you do, you know, like in any business. It's really good if you find group of people who are kind like you know, other CEOs maybe of similar company, not necessarily the similar what they do, but similar size.
Okay.
You know, nice group of people. I was in a couple of those groups, and it helps tremendously to come to place where you can share with people like you what you're going through, ask questions, and somebody always has some example or of something happened to them, and you can use it. Sometimes it feels very lonely on the top.
Yes.
But you're never alone. There are other people like you. There are, I hope there are still groups which get together and help each other. So I would highly recommend to become part of this kind of group. It's really helpful.
And it gives you a reassurance that you don't have to know everything.
Yes.
You have to know who to ask.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You don't have to know everything. Absolutely right. If you have people who you can ask, oh yeah, it's just right in the mind. You always know what to say.